aliens in the Bible. I've always been interested in UFOs and I've always enjoyed science fiction, but it wasn't until I came across a testimony that I considered credible that it really got me thinking about the topic. Is this a reality or is this fantasy? Now, coming from my background of doing theology and Christian ministry, I started to ask myself, what is the relationship between God and extraterrestrials? Exotheology, we call it. And I was very surprised to find many people going right to the assumption that because there's a God, there can't be aliens, or if there are aliens, that means it disproves God. The assumption that aliens somehow threaten the position of God as being the creator and the one who is the redeemer and in control of all things. It brings up other big theological questions, such as if there is life elsewhere, do they come under the atonement of Christ? Did Christ die for all the human race and other beings? Also, some of the passages we see in the Bible, the angels of light, the cherubim, was that a way of describing alien encounters and human experience? So, I know the Star of David and the star that led to the baby of Jesus can often be interpreted in way of being a UFO. So my picture here portrays three wise men, although I know there were probably more than three, going to the Christ child, and the Star of Bethlehem was a UFO. But here we have an example of aliens and God not being against each other, but rather they work in harmony with each other. Paul in the book of Acts in chapter 8, when he sees Jesus on the road, and you can almost see that story as being blinded by a UFO experience. But what about offering an interpretation of looking at the text in light of UFOs, bringing that imagery from the text and into the art? Moses parting the Red Sea is quite a famous one. I'm not the first to suggest that a UFO sort of worked with God, even bringing the cloud of fire or the pillar of cloud and the smoke, and using their powers to separate the waters. So many people have looked to the Red Sea miracle moment as kind of a UFO encounter and God and the UFOs working together. This one might not be as obvious at first, but this is the book of Revelation, chapter 21, going into chapter 22, when John sees a heavenly city coming down. And if you watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the UFO comes down, it does kind of look like a city upside down, a floating city. So I can imagine that story being read in light of a UFO experience. Alright, so with that in mind, I started to think about the role of aliens and how they can either be working with God, but also how we come into the story now as human beings. And a lot of media and films portray aliens taking over the world, like War of the Worlds and things like that. But actually, how often do people share testimonies of our military persecuting the aliens, that actually the aliens are in fear of us as people? This is the first picture I did, and it's an alien portrayal of the Adam and Eve story. We have the man and the woman and the tempting serpent. This is their own paradise, their own Garden of Eden on another planet. But you may notice that the tempting fruit here is actually the planet Earth. And why would the planet Earth be the tempting fruit? But it's because of that factor. If they come to this world, they are endangering themselves by the things our government and our military puts them through. So this is an interesting take on the story, and I just find the imagery very interesting. This is the picture of Cain and Abel, the first murder recorded in the Bible, and you may notice there that it's not the alien attacking the human. It's actually the human attacking the alien. The blood is on humanity's hands. And again, I think that is pretty true from the testimonies I hear of how governments silence people and will not reveal the truth. But actually, I think these crafts hide on purpose. I think the reason why they reveal themselves to people in small glimpses is because they live in fear of what humanity could do to them. This is a UFO experience in the Great Flood of Noah. And so you have Noah and his family locked away in the ark, and then the people who are lost. And you may notice that the UFO is actually searching for the lost people. That might be a way of us challenging our prejudices against people, that kind of you're in, you're out, how quickly we cast judgments upon those people, and how quick we are to point out at this world as being an evil, wicked place, although there is the share of suffering. But this one is an interesting take on the story, how the aliens are removing that us and them kind of thing. This one is the Tower of Babel, and I purposely did this in such a way that the temple is not being built trying to reach up to the aliens up on high, but you'll notice the aliens are actually on the same level as the humans. So again, that gets us challenging or to think about our perceptions of this as the aliens threatening God. What if they're exactly the same as us, just on another planet, on our level? But what we have here is humanity and the extraterrestrials working together in harmony to get up to the higher power, to God. They are discovering God as much as we are. So I do like this one. Jacob's Ladder from the book of Genesis also. I find this one kind of interesting because theologically that story is about a ladder coming down, God revealing himself from heaven to humanity. Whenever you read about God being in high places, mountains, temples, it's a way of theologically saying, I show myself to you, I come down to your level. I just like the idea of also the aliens either coming down to us, or it could be a way of us ascending to them to see their world and their perspective. But there is an open communication, there's an open approach, or they are approachable through this painting. This is Moses receiving the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai, and we have a UFO object there in the sky, and a lot of people might be quick to say, now you're trying to get rid of God in the story. The aliens are replacing God. No, actually, the inspiration for this came from that verse in Exodus where God says to Moses, you can't look at me, it would be too much for you to take in. That's what the UFO is doing here. It's a mediator between God and humanity. It's blocking Moses' vision because it would be too much for him to receive. So again, aliens and God working in harmony. Another example here of the UFO and God working together. This is the story in Joshua where he asked for more sunlight, and we can see the sun is being blocked here, and actually it was the UFO that gave the source of light. So again, God's plan, you could say he's using the UFO, or they are a part of God's plan. So I really do like this one. I think it's quite dramatic. And I also like to experiment with different shapes of UFOs, not just the saucer, but also the pyramid objects. Lots of different ways people have seen UFOs. Another pencil drawing here, and if you see there's a small man and a giant, the first story that probably would come to your mind is David and Goliath. But what we have here is the alien is actually in the form of David. And again, I'm not saying that David was an alien, but this is just me throwing a different spin on the story, and to say, the humans, our technology is harming them, the innocent ones, although Hollywood likes to show the aliens attacking us. So this is just a different way to think about the story. We have another big one here. This is Jonah and the whale when he was kicked off the boat. And this is just a way of showing that aliens live under the water. We often get this idea of extraterrestrials, of them coming down from space. But I prefer the term interterrestrials. I think people use that, or other beings. They actually live here on Earth, hiding under the ocean, under the glaciers, and that they are a part of this world. Maybe this was their world originally, and our evolution got us to a stage of us taking over. But you could say the UFO would rescue Jonah from the whale, but or that the whale would still swallow him. So a bit of open interpretation for that one, but I do like this one. Jesus' ascension in Acts chapter 1. Again, it could have been very easy for me to show Jesus ascending to the UFO. And if you look carefully there is a UFO, but Jesus is going back to God the Father, and actually the interterrestrial beings or the extraterrestrial beings are the two angels. Or I've interpreted the story a little bit different there. They are saying, why are you looking up? Jesus has been taken into heaven. Again, they're on the same level as the 11 disciples there. It's not this higher power kind of thing. So again, a different spin. Perhaps the most common interpretation of this would be for Jesus to go up to the UFO, but they're actually on Earth, the same as humanity. Alright, then we get thinking about Jesus directly, about him coming down to Earth, and because of what we did to Jesus, is almost the same degree to what we would do to other species, what we do to the animal kingdom. So here's a picture of the crucifixion, and everyone might say, oh look, he's replacing Jesus. But no, the alien is taking the form of one of the criminals on the cross, while Jesus still hangs there in the middle of the cross. So this might be a way to get us thinking about how we treat species. Big theological questions here on this one. There is John the Baptist getting ready to baptize Jesus, and you'll see that there's an alien between the two of them. And it's the big question here: would John baptize an alien? Would we baptize an alien? Think about it in humanity's terms. How often are people denied baptism? Are we quick to cast judgment on other species and denying their existence? And we'll notice that Jesus is not stopping them here. And there's clear, make sure you clearly know that I'm portraying Jesus there with the dove in the top corner. But some big questions there. What would be our response to baptizing an extraterrestrial being? So, friends, I hope this has got you thinking. I hope it allows you to expand your theology a little bit, because so often in churches, theology is limited, it is narrow-minded, and people are not willing to hear other perspectives. I feel my call here on this YouTube channel is to offer those perspectives in a analytical way, and that we can respectfully talk about these things, either if we agree or disagree. But let's have some dialogue about this. It's sad that you mentioned the word UFO and you're laughed at. Why can't the topic be taken seriously? And why does it have to threaten the Bible? But also, friends, if this has really moved you, and maybe you are the ones who have had an experience, a UFO experience, and you hold faith, and maybe you've wrestled with these two things, if any of this artwork has spoken to you, do drop me a line through the comments, and I would be more than happy to make copies and sell it to you. But thank you very much.